everybody, my name is Voidwalker Joe, and today I have a different video for you. We have a data mine kind of leaked for 318, and it goes over the following topics: KAREAH, prison, rep gained for different factions, missions, dynamic events, weapons, tutorials, racing, quality of life, improvements, and kind of some little features here and there that are pretty important. Medical gameplay, and the two big ones that we're going to talk about near the end. There's stuff about Pyro, and there's stuff about alien races. So, with that being said, this is all things that, you know, as far as data mining is concerned, I don't really know too much about. So I know that they're probably, you know, some of the stuff is probably just going to be stuff that they put in there for future iterations of the game. So we might not see some of this stuff until a later patch, maybe 3.19 or 4.0 or beyond. So, but it does show the direction that they do want to go and stuff that we might get later on, whether it's in 3.18 or not. So the first two that we're going to talk about is tutorials and KAREAH. Now, of course, you know, for as long as the game has been around, we still do not have tutorials. And there's a good reason behind that, because, you know, Cloud Imperium can't put out a tutorial on systems that are getting reworks in the future or just going to flat out change, because it would just be a waste of their time to put a tutorial in the game and then have to take it out and redo it about a bajillion times before the final result. So, but that doesn't mean we're not getting any tutorials. We're finally getting some of the basics. Some of the tutorials that we're getting are about things that I don't think are going to change. So, you know, basics like getting out of bed, how to find the terminal, and all of that good stuff. So let's get into it. So starting off with the first and the longest document here, we can see it says tutorial 1 through 3. Okay, now there are different parts within these tutorials. First tutorial looks like it's going to be, like I kind of mentioned a couple seconds ago, pressing Y to get out of bed, using your WASD keys to look around, and that kind of thing. Drinking water, exiting bed, drinking food, or not drinking food, drinking water, eating food, holding shift. All these tutorials going all the way down. Basics of all of that. You get into tutorial 3 here, and that's when you start to see the ones that I think are the biggest. And that's for knowing how to work your hangar, how to actually open up your hangar doors, basic flight controls. Let's see here. How to raise your landing gear. Your boost. Holding Z to look around, so they tell you a little bit of your camera controls. How to board your ship. Prepare for takeoff. Exit hangar. So the crazy thing is that it actually gives you an objective as far as like where to go. It gives you a heading. So it looks like this particular tutorial is taking you to Bikini Point, and I imagine that might be different based on where your home is at, but we have yet to see that. There is another part about this that I'll mention later on that this could be a part of as well. So let's keep going. All right, so going from tutorial 3, we're going into some new mission tutorials. Now, this is sorely needed because this is going to teach you how to do the basics of trading, cargo hauling, mining, that kind of thing. And looks like you have a tutorial for a data skimmer mission, delivery missions, and bounty hunting, and also a tutorial in FPS. So pretty much go to a location, kill the bad guy with a gun, literally says that, says he might have some friends. So that looks like that's probably the hardest to do. That's tutorial 7. Tutorial 6, kill the bad guy, easiest target possible, no reinforcements. It's pretty interesting. They kind of have like an easy tutorial, and then they kind of progresses, it looks like. All right, now checking out the last bit of information. This little guy down at the bottom here says tutorial 1 basics, tutorial 2 shopping, tutorial 3 ship, tutorial 4 delivery, tutorial 5 destroy probe, so that's the data skimming one, tutorial 6 bounty hunting, and tutorial 7 FPS. So that's essentially the folders that these were in specifically. So very cool. All right, moving on to security post KAREAH. Now, if you guys want to know more information about this, I suggest going and looking at some of the previous ISCs. They talk about it a little bit more. But moving on here, as you can see here on this first part, it looks like that this is going to be text that's going to be read onto the actual item dispenser that you're going to find within KAREAH. And that's pretty cool. It kind of gives you a little bit of insight on how it's going to work. Kind of what the mission's gonna feel like, that kind of thing. So pretty cool to see. But the biggest piece of information is here at the bottom here. Says infractions, right? So it says infractions description, I think, and then infractions grace. Now, the first part says theft of an item that doesn't belong to you, right? So obviously there's going to be a new infraction that you can get, as well as having a grace period. So it says, you are carrying a stolen item, please drop it. Now, something is going to tell you this, and you're going to have a limited amount of window to actually drop the item and not get the infraction, which is going to be very important, because I'm sure a lot of us are going to pick things up not knowing what they are, and not even knowing that this probably exists, right? This whole infraction of stealing. And so it's gonna be cool to see what they do with this in the future. I am almost positive that it has to do with KAREAH and taking these packages. Now, moving on to reputation. Now, as you can see popping up on the screen here, there are a lot of new factions to game rep with. So starting off, we're gonna get slavers. That's massive, but it's a big part of the lore. Screaming Galleons, probably another gang. Miners rep, so I'm just assuming that's probably some sort of workers union type of thing for miners. We have something called Supreme. We're not sure what that is, so we're gonna have to wait and see. United Workers of Hurston. Now that's probably another union type of thing. And we have a gang called the Outcasts. I'm almost positive I heard Outcasts and Screaming Galleons before. But, yeah, very interesting to know that we're going to get so much more variety when it comes to people to work with. To what extent, I'm not sure. But if anybody knows anything about any of these gangs or different factions, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear it. Moving on to Klesher. Now, as we know right now, Klesher is pretty boring, not much to do, and the escape route can be a little buggy. But it looks like we're going to be getting new missions, and the first one we're going to go over here is Rudo. It has to do with Rudo. So, it says here, the mission has to do with clearing crime stat and a data chip. Description: a data chip containing confidential information belonging to Klesher Rehab Facility. That's pretty cool. Then we get down to the part where Rudo actually sends you the message. Now, getting into the description of the mission, I'm not going to really read this off to you. I'll let you read that for yourself, or I'll actually have this document down in the description below if you want to go through it yourself. Anyways, essentially Rudo wants to hire you to go find this data chip somewhere within Klesher. Upon doing so, you're going to escape, take the Cyclone out to one of the outposts that's right outside of Klesher, and you're going to take a ship, and you're going to fly it, that chip to him. And he's going to clear your crime stat. So for folks that don't want to go to KAREAH security post to go clear the crime stat, this is a great solution. Well, maybe not a solution, but it is another route to go down. Looking at the next bit of information, you're going to see another mission type within prison called somewhere along the lines of apprehend violent inmate. Now, it says the description, locate and bring to justice this vigilante, right? So it says description long, description short. So I'm not sure what that means, if that's two different variations of the same mission, or if it's the same mission just said different ways within your mobiGlas. During their sentence, a prisoner has violated prison rules. This prisoner has been committing violent offenses during their sentence and must be stopped. Inmates who are willing to attempt to hunt this violent inmate will be rewarded for apprehending them. And to help us do these, we're going to get some new shivs. And it says, deadly improvised knife made by industrious prisoner by securing a sharpened piece of metal to an oxy pen with a bit of thin cord, considered contraband within prison facilities. So we're going to get that. And then we're also going to have just a normal prison shiv, and then it says short prison shiv. On to dynamic events. Now, there was a small folder that you can see that was shared, and it looks like we might be getting dynamic events on our Corp Crusader Hurston. There's one called Search and Destroy. So we're going to have to see what those are. It says pirate raids. So my guess on these pirate raids are it's going to be essentially the same dynamic event, just spread across ArcCorp, Crusader, and Hurston, and whatever else these Destroy and Search ones are. Yeah, I think they're all the same dynamic event. It's kind of, I think it's going to be like how Jumptown can be on 3 different moons, and I think it varies. So I think that's what this is a varying pirate raid on different planets. So that's going to be cool to check out. Now, when it comes to mission types, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of different mission types within this document. And so I'm not really going to go over all of them, but there are 2 here that I do want to go over in particular. The first one I'm assuming has to do with bounty hunting, because what it actually asks you to do is neutralize and recover the body of whoever it is that you need to grab. And you need to bring him back. And it says actually call the ATC and land with the body in your ship. That's pretty impressive for a mission. This next one has to do with refueling. So we're going to be getting beacons showing up on our HUD, and that we can actually send out by holding M. It says hold M to activate standard refueling beacon and offer a reward of 15,000 UEC. These beacons are going to start preparing us for when we actually run into situations of actually running out of fuel. So this is definitely needed for the future. Now this one is really cool. Racing. And not just any old racing. This is going to be withheld in those sim cabs that we've been seeing at that Apple-like store on Microtech that they actually sell. So this is either preparing for those to start working here sometime in the future, or maybe for 318, who knows. But it looks like we're getting time trials on them called The Garden on Daymar, Tyler Fields on Daymar, New Babbage, River Run on Microtech, Snake Pit on Clio. You could see below that there are ship dealer dialogue that says if you want to take any of the fleet out for a spin, help yourself to our sim cab. Very, very, very cool. And I can't wait for that. All right, so this next part has gotten me so excited to see what any of this really is. Alien races. This is going to be our first glimpse at something, hopefully, in the game that has to do with them. Now it says, actor species, so I'm assuming that maybe this is an actual character model, or maybe even just for some sort of comms within like your ship or mobiGlas somehow, who knows. But this is so cool. There is rep UI for the Xian and Vandul species. That is insane. I'm really hoping this means that we can actually build rep with them. Now you can also see it says actor species Banu and Tavaran and unknown. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what that even means. Below that, we can see that there's a Xian flight suit made by, God, I'm gonna butcher this so bad. Xiang Fabrication? Xiang Yang Fabric, maybe the S is silent. Yang Fabrication, I don't know. We're gonna have to wait. So cool. Moving on to our first evidence of Pyro being in game. That is massive. They're talking about Pyro Lagrange points here in these texts. It looks like there's gonna be Lagrange points 1, 2, 4, and 5. Now my thoughts on these are maybe these are in preparation to have the jump point ready. So even though I don't think the jump point is going to be in game for 318 or 319, but these Lagrange points might be around that same location where they're planning on putting that jump point. Here's one that I'm very happy to see: PISCES medical ship variant. Now in a past monthly report, we have seen that they have completed work on a ship variant for IAE, and I believe that the PISCES medical ship is this variant. Now this is great news, and I'll probably be picking it up because we just don't have very many medical ships. And last but not least, some of the extra features that I think are going to change how we play the game. First off, it looks like we're going to be getting fire extinguishers. Now, does that mean that we are getting actual fire mechanics? Also, it looks like we're going to be able to unequip our helmet and attach it to our hip instead of actually just carrying it or putting it in our backpack. So this is big. This makes it so much easier than how we used to do it. Now, they talked about this at CitizenCon when it came to restructuring how clunky Star Citizen is at the moment. This will help us eat. This will help us eat and drink so much easier. Now, this next feature is something I did not expect to see yet, but I remember CIG talking about this in the past, and that's the fact that we're going to start having restrictions when we sit down, meaning we're not going to be able to have our backpack on our backs when we sit in our pilot seat. So right here you can see interaction condition automatic store backpack. So there's an auto store backpack function when you sit down, as well as your weapons. It says seated item restrictions, backpack, unequip. Also, for held items, you cannot hold an item and sit down. At the bottom there, it also says interaction condition helmet. One at a time, remove current helmet. So, what does that mean? Not entirely sure, but very interesting. So that means that our actual physical lockers in our ship are going to actually be used and have an actual purpose outside of what we use them for today, as well as our weapon racks. We're going to be using them so much more now. All right, so moving on to the last little bit here, it says asteroid cluster radiation. This is pretty crazy to think about, considering we might actually get radiation in the game here soon. All right, so that about wraps up this video for today. So I really appreciate you guys watching. This is the first time I am doing a video like this, and I kind of went back and forth on whether I should or not, but it's out there now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please keep in mind that this is all me speculating off of a leak, and whether we actually see this stuff in game or not, we just don't know yet. So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below on what actually any of this means, and your guys' thoughts on the implications of actually having some of this stuff in game. So thanks again everybody for watching, and I appreciate any and all feedback. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.